Good morning. So today's video is video number 2 of the new in-box engine series. Now if you saw video number 1, you'll know that early in the year I went out on a limb and I purchased, I don't know, 6 or 7 new in-box engines. Now I'm not going to go into explaining all of the details of why I did that and what my criteria were. You'll have to go back to that first video for that. But what we've got here today is the second engine that I've decided to make a video of. This one is a very nice engine. This is incredible. This is probably one of the most complete and original engines I was able to find for my criteria. This engine costs less than $200. Now before I show you what this engine is, let me explain a little bit more about this new in-box engine series, which I did not explain in the first video. And that is that I'm not entirely sure, I really don't know if I will have the intention of running each of these new engines. I really purchased these engines so that I could just do this new in-box engine video series and show you some of the things that you can get when you buy a new in-box engine and things to look for and how complete they should be when you get them. I'm not even sure I'm going to keep all of these engines. I may end up turning around and selling them without having run them, or I might run them once or twice and then sell them. I'm not entirely sure. I may decide to keep them all. I don't know. When I bought these engines it wasn't a year ago, 10 months ago, the intention was to buy them, make one video showing them like this, and then selling them. Now, things change. I change. I might be selling them. If I do decide to sell these engines unrun, the one thing that I will be doing is I will be selling them for exactly the same price that I bought them for. I will not be taking a loss on these things at all, because I think I got pretty good deals on them. Secondly, as usual, I will not be shipping overseas. I'm just not going to deal with overseas shipping. Thirdly, if I do happen to run one or more of these engines and then decide to sell it, I will discount the price accordingly, because it will no longer be a new in-box engine, it will be a used engine. So, with that being said, let me turn on this camera so we can look at this engine. Okay, so as you can see, this engine is a wonderful OS 4-cycle engine. This engine, the FS-40, not the Surpass, FS-40, the first one, first series, pre-Surpass, dates back to 1983. And like I said, when I saw this ad, I was stoked, because this looked to be 100% complete from the factory, and I'm going to show you why exactly now. So here's the box. Before I take it open, here's the box, what it looks like. This is exactly how it should look. Now let's open this up. Now this first opening was key for me, because I had several old OS engines back when I was buying engines when I first got into the hobby, and since then, and I know what I'm seeing here is absolutely positively original. Look at this. Well, not that. This is the documentation package. We'll get to that, but this tissue paper. This tissue paper is original to early 80s and many even earlier OS new in-box engines. Now this is usually the first thing that people throw away for whatever reason. Now I'm one of those people that when I buy a brand new engine, I keep every single thing that came with it, or at least I used to. Now I still do. This tissue paper was the kicker. I was like, holy crap, this is all original, this is great. So here's the engine, and I'll look at each of these parts individually, because that's kind of the purpose of this. So we've got the documentation package, which in this instance has been opened. Sometimes you get lucky and you get an unopened documentation package. That's not the case here, but let me move this engine out. There's more here. So here's more tissue paper, and here's the creme de la creme. You've got even more tissue paper on the bottom of the box, and you've got all of the original packaged components that came with this engine. This bag, all stapled still too. This bag has the feeler gauge set, the angled feeler gauge set. They're 90-degree angles because of the design of this rocker cover. You can't really get in there. Like, they changed that in the Surpass series because people were complaining, because it's like, you know, this is really hard to get in here. And if you've ever set the timing or set the valve lash on one of these pre-surpass engines, you'll know what I'm talking about. I'm not going to get into that on this video though. So it's got all the wrenches, feeler gauge, the pressure adapter, combination wrench, just like it should. Let's see here, let's open. So those are the items. Let's take a look at this beautiful engine, and then we'll get into the documentation package because there's a lot of key information there. Here's this beautiful engine. This also, you should see, oops, you shouldn't drop it. This little cardboard tube you should always see on a brand new engine. This also is an original thing they put on there to protect the needle valve, obviously. So anytime you're looking to buy what you think is a new in-box OS vintage from the 80s, probably through the 80s, maybe even early 90s, I'm not sure. Look for this. Sometimes you'll even have it, well, like here. It's even on the prop nut. There's one on the, here, on the crankshaft. This is the important thing. I know I've even seen these on OS FSR two-stroke engines too. So this is 100% correct, and it did come with the header installed just like this. So this is all 100% original, period correct. Now, as I've mentioned in other videos with Sato engines, Sato, OS, a lot of those big companies back in those days, the 80s, Enya, Webra, they always put marketing literature in with their engines, and they always made it a point to make sure that any engine that shipped from their factory had the latest and greatest marketing literature, which means that they were all up to date and they showed all the latest engines being sold available, because this is a good selling marketing tool, so it had to be accurate. So here is the marketing literature for this engine. So this gives you an idea, and like I said, this engine came out in 1983. I don't know what year this thing was, but that's what this helps to do, is you can look at the marketing literature, and I've got the big OS, I still have the poster, the OS engines listing from like, I don't know, is pretty old to 2000 something. So I always go through there and I reference it and I look for dates of engines. So you can go in here and you can look and see, you can compare like, well, here's a good one right here, a Max 61 FSR. The two-piece case, that's a late 70s engine, I believe. I don't know how long the production life of the FS-40 was. I don't know if they stopped the FS-40 when the FS-40 Surpass came out, or if there was some kind of overlap. That I'm not entirely sure, but let's get to the four-stroke engines here. So this will be interesting. So here we go. Here we got the 240 Gemini, 160, 120 Gemini. We've got the original pre-Surpass 120 and FS-40. So there are no Surpass engines on this. So this marketing literature would seem to indicate to me that this is early 1980s anyway, still vintage. I would have to go and look at my OS chart to see when the first Surpass engine came out, and I don't know if the first. This one I remember. The FS-26 Surpass came out in 1988. As far as the FS-40, I'd have to review or check the review article if there is one, or check that OS diagram or whatever that was. So, in fact, I've got a screenshot. I took a picture and cropped it down of some 1980s, early 1980s engines, and I'll put it up here right now. And if you look at this carefully, I think there's probably at least 4 engines in this grouping that I have in my possession. So that's kind of a little bit of a tidbit there for maybe an upcoming new in-box engine series subject. So here's the FS-40, the mounting template, and this is good because even though one of the holes has been punched out, it looks like somebody actually put punch marks on there, it hasn't been cut, which is always kind of a nice thing to see that it hasn't been cut. The original OS decals, and what is this, our warnings, cautions, and of course the original instruction sheet. So I mean, this engine is as complete as I believe that it came from the factory just like this. I think there is nothing missing from this engine. I think this is all original, and it's a quite remarkable find. And like I said, less than $200 for this engine. This is a hell of a deal. Now, I love these smaller OS engines. They're quieter, which makes it a little bit easier. Well, now I've got a field that I can go run at, so that's not a big deal. I'm not going to be bothering neighbors, so now I can run whatever the hell I want. Even that Rossi engine that was given to me by a very awesome gentleman. But this is probably one that I'm going to keep. I love these little engines, and there was actually a listing on eBay a few weeks ago for a fellow in Florida, actually, who was selling some OS FS-40 Surpass engines. He had two of them, and he actually had a listing for an FS-48 Surpass. And the only reason I passed on those was because he says, and I don't know that I believe it, on the box, there was like, these things were cut out. There was a big cutout in each of his boxes. There's one of these sides, and he told me that it was due to some marketing campaign and he got some kind of points or something for that. I'm like, yeah, I've never heard of any crap like that, where you would deface a box, like a cereal box, and you take the box top and get a prize or something. I've never heard of that for an OS marketing scheme, so that was the reason I passed on that. Those engines were complete, new in box, looked like everything was there except the box was cut open and had a chunk missing, and I was unwilling to make the purchase for that because I don't want one that has a box that's all hosed up like that. So anyway, that is this video number 2 of the new in box engine video series. I'm pretty damn sure that you're going to see this engine running. I don't know exactly when, but I'm pretty sure you're going to be seeing this engine running for sure. So anyway, thank you all for watching, and look forward to some more videos coming out in the very near future.